I know you both, with Cascades Nursery and with Gilmore Braes Heritage Beef, you both come up to the capital region markets in Canberra, but you also go to other markets in the local area, don't you?
Not with the beef. The beef.
With the beef, I only sell the beef at Capital Region Farmers Market.
Yeah.
That business was set up for that market, and they look after me. I look after them. That's where I sell my meat.
Every Saturday.
Yes, every Saturday.
So now, compared to traditional beef farming methods, can you tell us a little bit more about your methods of farming?
In a lot of ways, it is traditional. In a lot of ways, it's not. Because of what we do, because of how we market our beef, we need a constant supply of young animals coming through all the time. So the bulls stay with the cows all year round.
Yeah.
That makes management a little trickier than in summer operations, because usually the young stock stay with mum for as long as possible, so you've got to get the bulls out so they're not going over young heifers and stuff like that. So yeah, we wean probably a little earlier than some operations do, particularly the heifers. But the cattle generally, they're a very easy calving breed. One of the other reasons for running the two breeds and putting the Welsh Black across the Highlands was to get hybrid vigour. They're both, particularly the Highlands, they're a very slow growing breed, slow to finish. It can take 2.5 to 3 years to reach the same body weight as 18 months with many other breeds. But the hybrid vigour, putting the Welsh Black over them, the Welsh Black is every bit, in fact, better than Angus. The size is equal to an Angus. Yeah. Their eating quality is better. Their nature is better. They're very quiet animals. Yeah. And but we get the hybrid vigour, which is essentially the best genetics of both animals expressed in one. Okay. And you get much greater growth rate with no compromise on eating quality or the meat quality. The animals are a bit livelier. That happens with hybrid, with crossbreeding. But that experiment has been well worthwhile.
Yeah, we actually sample the meat from every animal. Before we sell it at the markets, we'll sample the meat during the week. We've not noticed any difference with the crosses compared to the pure Scottish Highland meat. Yeah. And we're very discerning in our appraisal of the meat as we're eating it. Yeah. Which we have to be as little beef producers. Yes,
no, definitely. And you were mentioning last night certain accreditations and being MSA graded. Can you tell me a little bit more about that particular process that you have to go to be able to get your meat selling to your customers?
The biggest food sampling ever undertaken in the world anywhere was done here in Australia. Yeah. Okay. To establish the grading system for MSA graded beef. Yeah. Meat Standards Australia graded beef. There was something in the region of 600,000 food samples done. And each sample was given a score of...
They gave everyone a 10 centimetre line and said put a mark there for flavour, tenderness, texture and moisture.
But the results they got from that meant that they can now look at a carcass and grade the carcass according to some very, very accurate figures. Yeah. It's a hugely complicated thing to try and explain to someone who doesn't understand how a beef animal is cut up, or but for us as producers, it's the feedback we get from the abattoir being MSA graded is very valuable. It means we can fine tune sometimes our operation. Measurements like the pH of the meat as it's going through has a huge effect on its eating quality. Yeah. They use a different method of aging the carcass. They don't use dentition. They use what's called ossification. Yeah. Ossification is a measurement of the density of the calcification of the bone at the tail. Yeah.
And it's the spine.
Of the spine, yeah. Sorry, it's not actually an
cartilage turns to bone.
Yeah. It's not actually an age measurement. It's how the animal, two animal, you can take twins and separate them. Yeah. And put them under a different management regime, and they'll have different ossifications.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about the lifestyle of the animal.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit more about the lifestyle that you like to undertake with your animals here on the farm?
We're as chemical free as we can be. We're in high country New South Wales. This is a high liver fluke area. There's no selenium in the soil here. There's no iodine in the soil here.
Yeah.
We give them salt block lick blocks that contain both selenium and iodine. They're dotted around the paddock, so they've got free access to that at all times. So that's boosted. We're not certified organic. We're not really interested in being certified organic because of some of the other issues, health issues with animals. We will treat a sick animal.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't use growth hormones. We don't use antibiotics. But we do drench. We drench once when they're weaned, and that's it. They're on their own.
Okay.
The chemical we use is a poron
Yep.
down the backbone, and that does all internal and external parasites, including the liver fluke, which is a big problem here.
Oh, okay.
That chemical has a withholding period on it, but they're months out of withholding period by the time they're gone to slaughter.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be at least a year before they're killed after they've had the drench.
Okay.
So they're on their own for 12 months.
Yeah. But it would be more crueler to not actually drench them.
Absolutely.
So it's a necessary.
I don't want an animal being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
No way.
Yeah.
They're calmer if they're healthy.
Yeah.
It's like us. If you're sick, you get a bit fidgety and a bit crotchety and a bit, a healthy animal is a calmer animal. And we use as natural a fertilising regime as we can. We rotationally graze a lot, so the paddocks are getting naturally fertilised anyway, quite intensive grazing, and we move them around as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that has quite a beneficial effect on pasture production.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use basically a processed chook poo as our fertiliser here.
That's awesome.
We will not use superphosphate.
I do notice around the area that it's quite steep and it's quite slippery and hill. How does the breed with the Scottish Highlands and the Welsh Blacks, did that influence your decision to actually go with those two breeds for the type of conditions that they'll be having here on the farm?
Ancient breeds tend to be better foragers. We've got a lot of bush on our property as well, so they do get in amongst, and we've seen them, they use their horns to pull the branches down so they can get at the leaves. They're wonderful. We had another Scottish Highland farmer come here and look at our farm, and they said, "Oh, you'll build really good muscle on your steep slopes." So that was interesting, whether it's true or not.
And you're part of a Scottish Heritage Beef Association, is that right?
Yeah.
We're part of the Scottish the Australian Scottish Highland Association. We're members of it.
Yeah.
It's largely set up for the stud breeders.
Oh, okay.
But we're a commercial. We're like an associate member of that organisation.
Yeah.
It's a fairly small. There's a very small number of that particular breed here in Australia.
And you mentioned last night that you're one of Australia's first producers to actually use this breed for beef farming instead of beef breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are only one or two others that we're aware of. There may be others out there.
Yeah.
But the numbers that we've got just over 60 breeding cows here, and that's in Scottish Highlands. That's a big, they're called foals. It's called a fold of Highlands. And that's a big number for Australia. Most of the breeders in this country are small stud operators, and their offspring has usually been sold as pets and pretty things to have decorating a paddock. And that, to us, has been a shame for the breed, for the survival of the breed. You've got to be able to run them commercially.